This series has the potential to be one of the very best sets of the entire year. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Zerg. We're in the bottom left-hand corner in game number 1. We've got a little polar bear spinning around on the main hatchery. We're looking at none other than Clem's main base. His opponent, over in the top left. Oh god, we have the Basilisk logo spinning around on a command center instead. With the green Terran pieces, we're looking at Reynor's main command center. These two, recently, as of me casting it literally yesterday, they decided to play a best of 5 series during the Big Brain Bouts, which is a weekly event that Rotti puts on together with the Basilisk guys. Honestly, this is so exciting to me, because there's always so much debate in the StarCraft community, right? Which race is the best? Who is the best player? Which unit is overpowered? Which map favors who, right? There's always a ton of discussion. With both of these guys, well, being a world champion of StarCraft, right? Reynor used to be the world champion back in 2021, I want to say. Clem, the current world champion, he just won the world championships just about a month or so ago. It is, yeah, it's an exciting match. Obviously, both of these guys are in very good shape right now. Both of them are playing some incredible StarCraft, and I know that the both of them also are very strong with their off races. Specifically Protoss, I know that Clem was the highest ranked Protoss player on the European ladder for a little while. I'm not exactly sure where his Zerg is at, but I guess we'll find out. I know that Reynor, of course, always has been very good. He's been playing a lot of Protoss in the past too, but he also mixes in a bit of Terran from time to time. But for these two to play the opposing player's race in a best of 5 series is really, really exciting to me. So I guess we'll be able to settle once and for all. Which race is overpowered? Who's the better player? Okay, maybe one best of 5 is a little difficult to really determine it. But yeah, I'm excited for this. So let's see. Amphion for game number 1. I did mouse over some of the other replay files. First off, by the way, I did confirm that this is a best of 5. So let me update my scoreboard there. It would be a little bit embarrassing if, say, for example, you cast a best of 3 series and you think it's a best of 5. I mean, that would never happen, of course. Anyways, this is a best of 5 series, and I hovered over some of the other replays, and the replay file sizes are really big. So I hope you got yourself a drink or maybe at least some water or something, because I've got myself some coffee and 2 liters of water right next to me, because I've got a feeling this is going to be a bit of a longer one. Couple of Zerglings, by the way, already being annoying on the other side of the map. We're trying, of course, to make sure here that the Terran player, in this case, the Terran player is a Zerg player, but he's delayed as much as possible. Overall, though, this is a bit of a sacrifice as well on the side of the Zerg, so... By the way, I will probably be autopiloting quite a bit and calling Reynor the Zerg and Clem the Terran, mostly because that's what I've seen so much over the years. In case you're unfamiliar, both Reynor and Clem came up in StarCraft 2 right around the same time. They're both right around the same age. I think that Clem is like 1 month older or something along those lines, and both of them have been in tip-top shape for years now. Reynor earlier this year went over to Korea. The practice didn't really pay off initially, but it seems like it's really starting to work its magic right now. Clem also went over to Korea, practiced a whole bunch over there, and then, well, became the world champion of StarCraft 2. Both of them performing very, very well. Reynor probably would have liked to win the world championships, though, if you would have asked him. But I guess anybody else would have liked to win it, too. But there can only be one world champ, and that world champion is the Zerg player right over here, who's actually a Terran player. Anyways... Lair coming up right now. This is looking like a very normal build, so Baneling Nest will be coming up too. Overlord is going to try and check out what's happening in the meantime on the other side of the map, and it looks like Reynor has decided to delay the 3rd command center in favor of additional production. So this is a 3-1-1. So triple barracks opener right here from Reynor without a 3rd base. Couple of Hellions here too. Nice micro here so far by Clem. The Marines are going to be needed here at home. Obviously, Clem is very familiar with what the Terran build orders are going to be like, and likewise, the same can be said as well for Reynor. He will know exactly what he needs to be scouting for. That is what's going to make this very interesting, too. One of the most common questions, actually, that I get all the time in the YouTube comment section is like, yeah, we know who the best Zerg is, kind of. We know who the best Terran is, kind of. We have a big Zergling run by over here. This is actually already far more aggressive than what we normally see. Matter of fact, once more forced to return back home. Not the start here for Reynor that he's really hoping for whatsoever. The mules are not gonna go back to mining, it seems, because the lynx will be able to finish the job, but those were already almost timed out. This is quite expensive, though, for Zerg. But he's certainly getting his value in right now. Yeah, 20 Zerglings, only 4 of those SCVs, but considering this is a double command center build right here for Reynor, he really doesn't have that much. He doesn't really have that many workers, that much worker production in general. Now, people always ask me what I wanted to say. People always asking me, who is the very best random player in the world? Because none of the pro gamers compete as random. I think the really boring answer is probably Cyril, maybe Maru, maybe Clem, maybe Reynor. It's basically one of the other guys who's really good at the game. Because it turns out pro gamers are really good at StarCraft. Yeah. And even though they may be maining one race or the other, they will still be very good at StarCraft. And there's certainly a very obvious, well, you can obviously play any of the races if you're really good at the game, right? Maybe it takes a bit of practice, especially for the matchups. Like, say, for example, your Reynor. I can imagine your PvT, your Protoss versus Protoss, Protoss versus Terran, Terran versus Terran. I can imagine those matchups are going to be a little bit trickier. But these guys will certainly be top-level Grandmasters, even with their off races. Okay. +1/+1 coming up right now for Clem. He did delay the Baneling Nest for a little bit too long. This can become a bit of an issue, because this is just about to be a big attack right here from Reynor. I say that, he wanted to go for a big attack, but he's lost quite a few of the troops in the process. He already has a medevac full of units over here. Are we gonna pull a Bjorn? Are we gonna try and just boost 3 medevacs into the main base and then hope for the best? 2 of the medevacs didn't quite have their boost available again because it was still on cooldown. Looks like the medevacs are gonna be intercepted at least somewhat right now by the queens. This is not looking good whatsoever for the Terran. Because A, this attack didn't work, and B, he delayed his own economy. The 3rd command center is only just now about halfway done for a really, really long time. In the meantime, Clem already has a 5th hatchery building in the bottom right-hand corner. There's already a hatchery here on the high ground too. The 4th base is going to be fully saturated. It's 84 workers, soon to be 85 versus 45 SCVs. Clem actually really needs to just stop making any economy and just build a stupid amount of army. Because I've got a feeling this is just about to be a complete all-in from Reynor. He really doesn't have much of a choice. The only way in which this could still go wrong right now for the Zerg player is if he over-drones. I think it's probably okay, but he really doesn't need to be making twice the economy of the Terran player in order to beat the Terran. Maybe he believes it though, since he's a Terran player obviously himself. Maybe he believes that's the economy you need as Zerg. Which probably says more about Zerg than anything else. He's now giving away some of the units that he's got. Has he been hitting his Queen Injects? That's actually quite an important question. He's playing a Lingbane unit composition, which is very cheap as far as resources go, but very expensive in larva. These siege tanks are really lovely positioned there. Reynor trying to get maximum value, but I don't think he really can fight this Zerg economy. Assuming Clem can spend his money though, because you can already see some of those resources starting to stack up. Another hatchery building at the 3 o'clock position. This is 2 base Terran. 2 base Terran versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 base Zerg. It's a little excessive, Clem. I don't think we need to do all of this. He's ready to play the long game. What you gotta know, by the way, is that these guys also tend to troll one another quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if there's been a little bit of banter between these two. Reynor saying that late game Zerg is unwinnable, and Clem showing him right now that it's perfectly fine. Something like that would not be surprising. Anyways, the attacks over here in the natural of the Zerg player do continue though. Clem really needs to get his money spent. He's going Ultras, he's going 2-2. Okay, he is destroying the Terran in the meantime as well. I think all he really needs to do is just defend at home. If he defends at home right now, there's really no way out of this for Reynor. The queens are good, but I mean, they're not upgraded. These marines are only at +1 as well. Yeah, pretty horrible beginning right here for the series, I think, for Reynor. Nothing really went his way. Those random groups of Zerglings really caught him off guard. The timing attack off of 2 command centers that he wanted to go for it just never really got going, right? Because he just lost too much in the process before that point. So even though these fights look relatively close, this is, for all intents and purposes, an all-in. We've got another base over here done at the 3 o'clock. We don't need a Hydra then, Clem. I'm a little surprised, actually. I think we are playing this a little overly safe. We have some scouting happening too. Third base has landed. It is going to get an orbital command. If Clem gives his opponent enough time, this is one of those games where Reynor can get back into it, but this is essentially all in. Reynor is going to try and do one more YOLO push, it seems. I mean, these locations are really annoying for the Zerg player to break. He hasn't yet knocked down the rocks, of course, but he does have Vipers right now for abduction, so those siege tanks can be dealt with relatively easily. I think you throw some parabombs, some blinding clouds, some abductions here. Queens are once more heading to the front of the battle lines to try and tank some of those siege tank shots. There's an abduction. Parabomb. Okay. In the meantime, there's also a little bit of a push over here at the natural expansion. Only 4 SCVs remain. Third command center has a handful of workers on it. At this point, we have Clem, though, doubling his opponent's army supply and doubling his, well, his supply in general. It's a little bit too much. I know that mules are good, but they're not this good, right? I mean, if somehow, some way, Reynor manages to get a win here, I would be incredibly surprised. But I can imagine that would also set the tone for the rest of the series. Chitinous plating finishing up. +1 coming up for the Hydralisks. Big Zergling Baneling run by in the natural expansion of Reynor once more. This base will be forced to lift off. We have another fight in this location, but I've got a feeling that the Vipers are just a little bit too good at this stage in the game. Next up, we find ourselves on site Delta. Reynor this time around opening up with a double barracks beginning. Clem once more going hatchery first, hiding a drone over at the third base. And he is gonna try and see if he can get some value here. How many Reapers will we produce? Generally speaking, you don't really need any more than 3. Don't lose any of them though. Nice little bit of micro here by Reynor. Clem hoping he can get lucky, being quite aggressive here, making already 6 lings as well. This is a little bit more than what you ordinarily do. Overlord goes deep into the main base, and we'll see exactly when that factory gets planted down. There is a drone all the way at the 6 o'clock position of the map, ready to become a third base in a moment. Reynor is scouting around for it. He knows that Zergs like to hide that worker if possible. Oh, Brenda is gonna be taken on a little trip. But the Queen will be able to stay on creep, or at least close enough to creep for now. By the way, just seeing the little polar bear spinning around on a hatchery is already throwing me off a little bit. It looks very cursed. Seeing the Basilisk logo as well on an orbital command is also a little bit funky here. Generally speaking, only Protoss and Zerg on Basilisk. But it's alright. Okay. So game number 1, Reynor decided to go for what was a very committed 2-base opener, right? He wanted to deal a bunch of damage, but he never really got a lot of damage done. He took damage instead at home, and he just kind of fizzled out as time went on. What exactly can we do in game number 2 instead? So once more, we don't really have a very fast third command center. Most of the builds right now in the current meta for Terran, they focus on getting a very quick third command center going. This is once more a relatively late one right now. It's instead going to be a double barrack start into what seems to be Banshees. Fair enough. Generally speaking, this is something that can catch the Zerg players off guard, not because the Banshee is going to hit particularly quick, but because usually the Banshee opener is only played with a regular 1-1-1, so 1 barracks into a factory into a starport. Usually this is the type of setup where the factory instead is going to be producing a reactor, and then the starport is going to be pumping out medevacs. It's a little funky to do a marine opener and then still go into Banshees anyways. So it's one of those builds that can catch the Zerg player off guard if they're not paying attention. But the problem here for Reynor is that Clem plays this build all the freaking time. So I would imagine that Clem is gonna be prepared for it, but you never know. This is one of the few strategies where Zerg will skip Spore Crawlers. Then again, we have a lair at a reasonable time. So you can still just get the mobile detector here against that cloaking field. And instead what we've got is a 4th hatchery already going down right here at the bottom of the map. Banshee is going to be taking a very long path around the map. And effectively what this comes down to, right, is the Banshee needs to deal damage that justifies the delay of the 3rd command center. So this Banshee over here, the 2nd Banshee too, is gonna have its work cut out for itself. Actually, there's only a single Banshee. It's just one Banshee with cloak. I don't think that's a very good play. Maybe the Marines can do some damage in the meantime, so obviously Baneling speed is not gonna be done for this main attack. But since there's no Hellions roaming the map either, the creep threat is, yeah, looking pretty good. As long as Clem holds here against this first big attack, he's gonna be able to make a ton of economy. Reaper's a little bit too adventurous. We do need the detector though, and there's currently no detection at home. It looks like, yeah, Reynor's actually just given up on it. He knows that this is likely not going to work, and decides to go for a 3rd command center instead. Now, this Banshee is putting in quite a bit of damage though. 7 workers already. I think he should have gone double Banshee. If he went double Banshee, I think this would have worked out really nicely. Okay. The Banshee goes down, but she is responsible for 11 kills. And you know what? I think that more or less justifies the 3rd base timing right here. So this game is actually now relatively even. Clem not quite expecting the Banshee follow-up. I wonder what would have happened here, though, if we had just a little bit more. Just a 2nd Banshee, so you can one-shot the drones. We probably would have seen at least 20 worker kills. Anyways. 4th base right over here at the bottom of the map. We have a little bit of creep spread. Still going around though, and that is something that Reynor will have to address. +1 coming up after the +1 infantry attacks. Banelings though on creep. Yeah, very powerful. And upon losing a couple of creep tumors, we're immediately ready to replace a couple of the last ones. Or a couple of the lost ones, rather. The last ones. The last lost ones. Anyways. Hydra then. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Hive at a reasonable time into Lurkers, although he can certainly also stick around on Hydraling Bane instead. Second NG Bay for Reynor in the meantime, together with an Armory. Reynor trying to give Clem a taste of his own medicine by going around the map and just trying to out-multitask Clem. Both of these players known for their speed, by the way. 430-ish APM here for Clem. 380-ish for Reynor. Should we go to some first-person view? So this is Reynor's point of view right now. Notice the continued production here in the bottom right-hand corner, so you can constantly see these structures getting selected, which is them queuing up more things. A little bit of a supply block right there for Reynor. So busy multitasking. Finds out that maybe playing Terran is not quite as easy as it looks. Clem in the meantime also supply blocked. This is Clem's first-person view. I know a lot of people look at this and get a bit of a headache. I've played enough StarCraft over the years where this doesn't really bother me, but yeah. The players can be quite quick. APM-wise, that is about, well, what 400-ish APM looks like. Both players still end up losing some troops unnecessarily, though. Here we go. Big attack from Clem. That is one way to open up supply, but it's certainly not a good one if you want to win the game. Takes a ton of damage by going down that siege tank meat grinder. Reynor playing in green right here on site Delta, man. Look at this, the camouflage of the siege tanks. You can barely see them. Now, luckily for the pro gamers, they can hit Alt+F on the keyboard while in-game, and it will switch to the alternate color scheme that you can set up in the settings. Specifically for these sort of setups. Actually a very useful hotkey. You can set up some alternate colors. And on some maps, when your opponent is being a bit of a jerk with the coloring, You can change it. You can actually change the default of your opponent's colors too if you want to. You can have them be the exact same settings as far as the colors go. Every single game. Okay. Ooh, nice targeting right there by Reynor. Getting rid of those banelings before they can even get remotely close. This is a Zerg meat grinder and a half once again, though. Woo. This is right before infantry level 2 kicks in. If he would have had that upgrade done, that would have looked even better. 20 creep tumors, by the way, active right now on the production tab. That is a lot. Ultimately, Clem will be going into a hive and he will be going into a lurker den, but he's by no means rushing them out. That's the general goal of a lot of Zerg strategies right now. Get those lurkers quickly. But apparently not what Clem wants to do. So, 4th command center at this point is done. Reynor's economy early on was relatively slow, but he's picked it up ever since then. Normally, this would be the time as well to go into a ghost academy. So if you're afraid of ghosts, well, you might want to close your eyes. I've got a feeling we're going to see quite a few ghosts throughout this series. Whoa, that's a lot of creep tumors going down. Yeah, ghosts are pretty scary. Unless they're Nova. Maybe Kerrigan. Back when she was a ghost. Not very scary. No. There's the academy. Ghosts have to go to school, dude. Marines and Marauders, they don't have to go to school. They don't really have to be taught that much. Just wear the suit and grab this gun and just go at it. But there's an academy for ghost training. Now, I'm really curious to see what Clem thinks of late game Zerg. I'm not 100% sure. So here's the, in case you are not like 100% up to date on the current game, or like maybe you've not been watching as much. In general, there's a lot of complaining right now in the StarCraft world about ghosts. People say they're too good, too powerful, too handsome, too humble, too loud, too many nukes. Then again, the thing is, people always complain, right? People always complain in general, but especially in StarCraft. People always complain. I don't know if there's that much complaining in chess, but literally like seconds after Clem won the World Championships this year, there were already Reddit threads going around, right? Of people complaining about the Ghost and Terran being overpowered, rather than being like, oh my god, Clem is so good at the game, he did such a good job. No, we instantly jumped to balance whining instead. That's the only logical thing to do. Now, it's hard to say if the unit is overtuned or if the, you know, maybe the maps are a little bit too good for, or whatever, right? Like, maybe Clem is just better than anybody else. That could also be. Maybe it's because Cyril is in the military. There's about a gajillion different things. So it's hard to really draw any conclusions. Nice bit of damage right here, though, by Reynor once more. We did have Clem dealing damage, too, on the left side of the map, but Reynor not really hurting that much. Yeah, a lot of StarCraft 2's balance comes down to, like, individual performance. So Cyril has been so dominant in StarCraft 2 for such a long time that everybody kind of believed that Zerg was overtuned, and maybe it was. But it was really mostly Cyril being overtuned. And then Cyril went off to do his military service. And suddenly Zerg didn't seem quite as strong. And we've had multiple moments of that in the past too. Where you ultimately end up balancing the game off of one person, really. It's always difficult to really decide, right, how these sort of things go. Anyways. We have a Spire coming up right now. We've got ourselves a Nidus network on the production tab too, so Clem is ready to start sending the units straight into the main base, I would imagine. Yeah, Clem has been playing out of his mind good though, with Terran in particular, just so strong. Okay. He's actually finding a great opportunity too. The Ghosts are ending up going down, and that is something else. It is not as easy as it looks. Suddenly, those ghosts a little bit overly extended, a little bit too far forward, and immediately Clem strikes. Wonderful work by the Frenchman. Très bien. Oui, oui, la vacherie. As they say in France. At least that's what I believe. I'm pretty sure that's what everybody always says in France. Anyways, the ghost numbers will still be coming though. Personal cloaking for the ghost will be done as well in just a moment. Zerglings still dealing damage too on the left side of the map, but this area does seem to be turtled up quite nicely right here for Reynor. Leaving behind a couple of changelings too. How many overseers do we have? Rogue is looking at this right now. That's not enough overseers. You need at least 40. Okay. Interesting little push right here from Clem without banelings. Not enough banelings, not enough overseers. With the reinforcing troops right now coming in from the left, it looks like Reynor is going to be able to clean this up. I've got some more rogue games, by the way, to cast as well in the near future. If you aren't subscribed already, do make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified. I've got quite a few more rogue games that I want to go ahead and have a look at. He's been playing a lot of long games of TVZ. And from what I understand, he's actually playing Mass Overseer every game now. So, anytime Rogue currently has Overlords in the late game, he turns all of his Overlords into Overseers. Every single one of them. And I've never seen this before in 14 years of competition. The concept is pretty straightforward. Make it impossible for the ghosts to snipe their targets because you can't see the target. The entire map is filled with overseers. Continued aggression right now though from Reynor. Clem may be overextending a little bit. He's done some good damage, but the command center count is still solid. Yeah, we don't have a ton of orbital commands yet, so it's only 4 of them. 4 orbitals. But I think we're gonna probably make some more here. Yeah, he's trying to add on at least 1. Big push here, deep onto creep by Reynor. He needs to be careful, but he knows there's not a ton of banelings available and not a lot of lurkers over here either. Additional lurkers, though, just now spawned. In the meantime, there is also a fight up north, but that one has been pushed back. Looking at those Hydralisk corpses, I don't think that Reynor really struggled in that department over there. Okay, so resources lost, still heavily in favor right here of the Terran. Clem continuing onwards though, trying to get into a good position. He wants to try and see if he can kill this planetary, but he needs to be close enough with the lurkers. Ghost flanks are not to be underestimated. He decides to take it easy. Take a little run back home, because those ghosts would have certainly sniped every single lurker right over there. No reason to gamble. Back to the drawing board we go. Okay, so initially those fights went really good for Clem in the late game. He's been grabbing opportunities, and he's been, taking them with both hands, but this is by no means an overwhelming advantage right now for the Zerg. He's got a lot of bases, yes. He can take a lot of creep, sure. But ultimately, Reynor is only looking at 50% of the map. He knows he's not in a rush. He also knows that some of these future bases can be quite difficult for Terran to secure. So as long as he makes sure that the Zerg can't mine all of it, it's fine. Then again though, Clem is trying to see if he can just shut down any additional mining right now here for Reynor. SCVs! Oh my lord, okay, 25, 27. Apparently this guy stays alive to tell the rest of the tale. A couple of the ghosts coming in as well from the flank right now though, trying to see if they can get rid of any of those retreating Zerg units. And I've got a feeling this is going to be a one-way trip right now for the Swarm. But they've already dealt a ton of damage. Then again, these fights are incredibly cost-efficient for Terran. Yes, he may have lost all the workers, but this is still the point in the game where you can remake them quite quickly too. Okay. Big fight. Once more, deep up the creep. Banelings. Bit sloppy there by Reynor. Certainly was not meaning to dive that deep. I think he's actually going into the creep a little bit too aggressively. He did the same thing down south. Went decently well that time around because there weren't any banelings in the mix. But I think these fights are a bit of a gamble. No reason to gamble, especially when you're about 30 supply up. Then again, it is a pro gamer move too, right? If Bjorn had these medevacs, he would be diving them around the map as well. Reynor just taking a page out of Bjorn's book, except he's not taking the flanks of the map so much. He's just flying straight through the center instead. Okay. Reynor not really making that many command centers, actually. We really do need more battles. We only have 4 battles. We need more battles. I think we need at least 4 more. All jokes aside, that is usually what Terran players will be aiming for. Then again, this is now a relatively low eco game. It's kind of funny. If you look at the minimap, all of the bases are taken. Exception for this one right over here, but Reynor is trying to grab that one right now, and I guess there's one over here too that can still be mined from, but despite the amount of expansions that both players have, they're not really mining that much. Like, the income is relatively low, and, well, even though Zerg has been leading in that department for the most part, it's now been evened up. Fight continues in the top right-hand corner. Nice movement right here by Reynor, though. Yep. Dives off of the creep. He saw that army coming in from a mile away. He does lose quite a few units, but it looks like the original target that he set his eyes on was this mineral line. He gets 11 drones, plus the hatchery, and a whole load of creep. Then again, though, Clem already has enough minerals to mine right now. He's got plenty of drones that can be transferred to other locations. Reynor, though, is going to continue the aggression right now as well with a couple of libs. Yeah, not bad. Fight over here in the middle of the map too. Creep spread has been pushed very far forward once again by the Frenchman. Big fungal growth over there too, and he will be able to close the distance. Here's the flank coming in though, the flank on top of the flank. Reynor once more sending in his reinforcements too. Looks like on his way out, Clem decided to snipe the orbital command. Queen's a little too far forward though. They were proud of their creep spread, but they're gonna have to, well, go back to the drawing board, maybe reincarnate or something, because that did not quite work out for those ladies. Okay. Great back and forth so far. You can see that both players are also starting to speed up quite a bit. We now have about 500-ish APM here for Reynor, about 600-ish for Clem. This is, of course, the Terran, Reynor's point of view. Currently leading this game quite nicely. I zoom out, by the way, while I'm casting a lot, but you cannot zoom out nearly that far when you're playing 1v1. Or 2v2, or 3v3, or 4v4 for that matter. Sometimes when you look at the first-person view, you can realize how cramped it really is. Or how Clem likes to call it, how clamped. No. Anyways, back to my camera. Always nice, though, to have a little bit of a first-person view. I feel like I need to do that a little bit more. Especially for players that are very fast. 4 Zerglings is all we can spare at this point. It's not a lot, but it'll do. Do we have all of the late game upgrades, by the way? We have ranged, we've got burrow, okay. We don't yet really have any of the proper late game upgrades. We're missing a fusion core. There's a couple more researches that Terran can certainly make use of. Like, for example, building armor, high-sec auto-tracking, Caduceus reactor, advanced ballistics. There's still some stuff right here that Reynor can do to make his game overall a little bit better. That was a bit of a caster flex, by the way. I don't want to, like, impress you too much, of course, but did you hear me just rattling off those upgrades and getting all of them spot on? God. Jeez. Even from... Oh my god! Oh, jeez! I'll shut up! I'll shut up! I'll shut up! Woo! That was hot! Clem coming in clutch. That's the type of stuff that I dream about. Yeah, as a Zerg player at heart, I dream of fungaling big clumps of ghosts. Sex is nice and all, but have you ever fungal 20 ghosts? Yeah, I didn't think so. Anyways, the Marines continue onwards in the bottom left-hand corner. The Hydras and the Lurkers, though, are dealing a lot of damage over here, too. Yeah, in real life, it's frowned upon to have a fungal growth, but you should probably go see a doctor. If you're a Zerg, highly, highly recommended. Okay. Yeah, I really like this push right here from Clem, who was about 40, 50-ish supply behind not that long ago. Reynor, though, is starting to run very, very low when it comes to the amount of minerals that he's got. And even though both players have had a ton of mineral fields to mine from, neither of them really has a lot of money. The command center count is finally growing, but Reynor really needs to make sure he remaxes here. Beautiful little surround here as well by Clem, but yeah, there are a few ghosts in the mix there too. Kind of looked to me like game number 1 was a bit of a warm-up game for Reynor. You kind of had to get the hang of Terran again, but these two are very evenly matched, it looks like. Okay, so it's becoming critical right now for Reynor to take another base. He also needs to repair this orbital, or this planetary rather. He really needs to take another expansion, so that's what he decides to do right now. Orbital Command flies over in this direction once more and needs to grab it. Now, no Ravens in the late game. Clem once again has a fungal growth ready to go, although this time around, okay, it gets spotted. EMP together with a snipe just to double kill him. Missile turret coming up. Clem doesn't have a lot of resources anymore, but he does have just an awful lot of units. Is there enough right now for Zerg to push through all of this? Reynor trying to back off and trying to see if he can, well, minimize the damage here from the swarm. SCVs in the meantime under threat here from a few of those lurkers. Marine drop in the meantime in the bottom left-hand corner, shutting down some of that Zerg mining as well. Looks like Reynor with reinforcing units will probably be able to hold this spot. Matter of fact, drop in the meantime, though, has pushed away all of those drones, and it's gonna once more hide in the bottom left-hand corner to fight in just a moment once more. Okay. 27 SCVs on one base. I don't think that's, yeah, I was gonna say, that's not all of them. We're gonna try and cycle some of those workers into a different spot. He probably wants to take this expansion over here. Top right-hand corner, though. Sniped once more here by Reynor. Couple of changelings here in the mix too. Okay. You can tell that this is a very complex game to play right now. Because how in the world do you decide how much money the opponent has, right? Like, we can see the amount of resources that they have, but it's all about game sense here. Hydras once more moving in. They're gonna be able to snipe that orbital command easy peasy. We only have 2. Yeah, just 2 orbital commands remaining right now. This planetary did get healed up a little bit. This one is currently burning. It will lose HP quite quickly, so I don't really know if Reynor is gonna catch wind of that anytime soon. He's very busy microing, trying to get rid of all of the creep threat that Clem is spreading all around. And heads off, honestly, here to Clem for finding those opportunities and then also grabbing them. Looks like the SCV is going to be able to repair the command center. Another orbital command is right over here. Reynor needs to get this base. Okay, that's not even close. He needs to get this base mining very, very soon. Because his income is nowhere. He's got the SCVs, he's got some mules. This is now the pivotal play. He's putting all of his eggs in one basket, and he is trying to see if he can take that base ASAP. Okay, some nice snipes. Fungal growth! Okay. EMP hitting a little bit late, and suddenly those lurkers, Hydras, and Zerglings are dealing a tremendous amount of damage. Obviously, we never go Ravens in the late game, right? Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of orbitals, so it's a bit of a meme, right? When you don't have a lot of orbitals and you can't just scan every single time you push. This is only 2 orbital commands. He just does not have the energy to be sending any of it in. Clem once more coming in from the high ground, trying to see if he can seal the deal in this game right now. He doesn't have a lot of money. This is basically the only army he can make, but I think it's the only one he needs. GG. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on Ghost River. Guys, it's just Clem. Clem's just too good. Too good, too fast, too handsome, too French, too humble. What else is there to say? Honestly, really well done. The fighting spirit is so noticeable, right? Like he was in a tricky spot there several times. But he knows the one way I can get back into this is by, well, first off, playing really, really well, but also hitting some money fungals. That was a comeback and a half right there from Clem. Generally speaking, it's really difficult for Zerg to come back from a deficit like that, but, well, Clem saw opportunities and he immediately took them. I do have to say, though, that overall, I don't really like the build orders here from Reynor all too much. He's been going for some pretty quick, I guess, early game tech and then relatively low economy. I feel like that style is decent against lower level Zergs. Maybe on the ladder he can find a lot of success, but it's pretty clear that Clem is very strong when it comes to playing Zerg. So, nice drone snipe over there by Reynor. I would like to see more of a economical focus, I guess, from the Terran player, just because it's the gold standard in the current meta, and it makes that late game, but also the mid game, a lot more playable. Once more, we're going straight 1-1-1, no quick third command center. So, normally we have a third command center. At this point, going up. Not in this series so far here by Reynor. He's really focused on trying to, deal damage early on. Are we going to do the switcheroo here and make some Hellions at the same time? Probably, I guess. We're probably waiting for 2 more Marines to spawn, make sure that we can actually push back those links. Third command center at the front. In probably about a half minute. It is not going to be... Okay, it is going to be a tech lab. Okay. We didn't go for a quick tech lab right there. I guess it's because the factory could not do the big switcheroo there with the barracks. So Reynor had to make some decisions there. Decided to pump out 2 more Marines. Then did the switcheroo, but it means that he does not have as much time to build the tech lab right there on the barracks. And that means that the starport's Banshee is going to be a little bit delayed. Tiny little supply block here as well, though, because the front was not quite available there. So he had to... make a decision in that department, and now the Banshee will start up. So this early game Banshee rush is not particularly quick. It's a relatively slow rush, you know what I mean? It's gonna give Clem a lot more time to make spore crawlers and get detection going. Again, detection can be made with spores, but you can also get it from an overseer. In the last game, he didn't quite have that much of it available early on. Keep in mind, by the way, that Clem in that previous game really did take a big hit early on with that... that first Banshee dealing like, what, 11 workers worth of damage? That is something that is very avoidable. Normal timing of spores. Ooh, as he gets the Hellions around. Big blunder right here from Reynor. Reynor not really getting going here at all. And there's the spores. So this is actually a timing on the spore crawlers that is particularly good against liberators. On this map, you need them quite quick. But either way, even though this is meant to counter Liberators, judging here by the position, this is still going to be very handy as well against Banshees. And this is one of those positions where, unless you play extremely well, when your early game goes pretty badly, right? And your third command center is kind of late, and all of the early game decisions are not really working out in your favor, where in the long run, it might take another 5 minutes, maybe another 10 minutes or so, but in the long run, generally from this spot, Terran tends to lose. It's just too much a commitment in early game, and the early game has not really done anything. This Banshee not achieving anything either. I mean, we can activate cloaking. Maybe it's going to be able to cancel the 4th base, but the 4th base cancel is not nearly as big a deal when there is no 3rd command center landed, right? So he even keeps the base alive. Wonderful play right here by Clem. Prioritizes the bailing speed once more. We've got an anti-Hellion Evo chamber positioning here. There are no more Hellions, probably unnecessary. But at the very least, if Hellions were still around, oh, there's still a couple of them at home. Yeah, they would have a hard time driving in. Nice snipe right there on that Overlord though by Reynor. And he does have a small lead as far as the upgrades go. He's getting all of these command centers set up right now too, and he's trying to see if he can just play the macro game from here. But it means that you are playing the macro game a little bit from behind. I want to say probably about 30 seconds or so in total right now, behind right here. For the Terran player. And that's going to give Clem enough time to get the bailing speed finished, to get the upgrades finished over here. He could go Hydras, he could go Lurkers, he could stick around on Ling Bane. Honestly, anything Clem does right here is going to be good. Looks like we have an infestation pit. I wouldn't mind seeing just straight Ultras either. Although Ultras are a little bit gambly. But Ultras usually are a bit of a timing attack, right? You need to make sure that you get the upgrades done nice and quickly. When you've got yourself an additional 30 seconds or so, it's gonna, yeah, make life a little bit better. A couple of roly-poly Banes. Not going to do much. Bottom left-hand corner, though. Clem is taking another base. A 5th hatchery already coming up. Oh, free Zerglings? Okay, free Zerglings always taste the best. That's what my mom tells me. 2nd factory coming up at the front. Hydra then on the back of this too, so we will probably just see Lurkers here from Clem. Good old Lurkers. Oh, popping the Banes. One at a time. Leaving 1 or 2 Marines on the ground just to take a bit of a hit. +2/+2 in the meantime, 2 on the other side of the map. Armory was maybe 10 seconds late, but nothing all too extreme. Banshee is once more going to hit the battlefield too. She decided to go home, hope for some repairs, got nothing. Is sent out onto the battlefield once more. The other Banshee also not getting anything repaired. 4th command center, about halfway done. Reynor has decided that he wants to just play the macro game here. Yeah. And it's a pretty good opportunity, honestly, when Zerg is not really going for a big attack anytime soon. It means that you have time to chill. Like, even though Clem bought himself a lot of time and he defended at home really nicely, he's not really rushing up towards Lurkers. He's not really going quick hive. He's not really going into any of those upgrades very rapidly here at all. He is basically once more setting himself up to play a nice little macro game. I would have preferred, I think, seeing a bit more of a timing-focused attack there, because it's a perfect opportunity for Clem to be aggressive. But he's basically saying that he's going to continue playing the game, and he's going to try and get more and more ahead, which is a perfectly fine way to play. But Reynor really was in a bit of a tricky position there. Okay. Reynor, though, grabbing the supply advantage right now. Not by much, but it counts. SCV train heading on over towards that 4th base location too. Drilling claws coming up, so we're ready to make maybe a bit of a Widowmine transition if we absolutely need to. Sensor tower in a great position here as well. That's going to give him the heads up of any Zerg units that will be entering any of these locations. Okay. Adrenal glands. +1 missile, +2 armor. +1 for the mechanical units. And +2/+2 just about to finish up as well for the bio. The only thing that's lacking is ghosts. And they're coming again. We're gonna have ghosts on Ghost River. It's a lot of sensor towers, by the way. Reynor not keen to deal with any of that, I don't know, Nidus network shenanigans or whatever. He's got a whole train of sensor towers set up. Sensor towers aren't super expensive. Probably not a bad idea. Okay. So Seismic Spines is coming up right now. That's the Lurker ranged upgrade. We have a Nidus Worm coming up too. Reynor is basically saying, look, I have lost against Turtle Terrans many times, so today I will become the Turtle Terran. Let's see if Clem can find any chinks in the armor right here of Reynor. because he is setting himself up for a very defensive game right now. This is actually very tricky to break. Now, this is exactly what I was suggesting, though. Try and make a lot of command centers, try to build up that more conventional army. I don't think this attack is going to do much from the Zerg. This is a choke point and a half, man. No way. Not even the first siege tank went down. These guys are having a grand old time. Luckily, right there for Clem, he decided to retreat, because that would have gone absolutely horribly. This base is way too far forward. I think in the long run, by the way, this map is pretty terrible for Zerg, because it's really difficult for Zerg to take one of the bases of the Terran, right? Like, look at the mini-map. If you draw a line from, like, the 12 o'clock position all the way to the 6 o'clock position, the left side, in this case, is for the Zerg, the right side is for the Terran. For Clem to take a base, it has to be either this one or that one right over there. And both are pretty terrible choices. If they both mine 50% of the map, I don't think there's a chance for Zerg to win. Reynor obviously knows this. Clem obviously knows this too, so Clem has decided to take this base pretty early. Yeah, he doesn't really need these minerals yet, but any mining done over here would be lovely. So I think it's probably a better choice to just make a whole load of lurkers and park them on the high ground. Maybe put some static defense, make it impossible for Reynor to break. Okay. Yep, missile turrets and sensor towers coming up. Rarely do I see people complaining about the sensor tower. Rarely do I see anybody really complain about static defense in StarCraft in general. I do kind of feel like the sensor tower is maybe a little too good. It really is so strong. Such a powerful tool. Okay. Oh. Whoa, my God. Sorry, do we want to witness that again? This is Reynor executing any of the troops that are no longer loyal. There's a little bit of heresying going on right now in Reynor's army. We are apparently opening up some supply to make some ghosts. Ghosts on Ghost River. It's not a bad choice. Get those bad boys out quickly. Get them ready to snipe some lurkers. Okay. Medevac coming up. Trying to see if it can head on over to the high ground. We have a command center setting. Are we gonna put a command center in the freaking choke point? Clem, by the way, taking both of these bases. This expansion is within the sensor tower's radius. So this is the exact style that I wanted Reynor to play, though. This is the one that Zerg players hate. This is probably the worst type of playstyle to go up against as Zerg. Because Clem right now has basically said, okay, I am not going to be attacking you with a timing attack, so we can play this game if you want to. And Reynor is saying, perfect. Let's do it. Is there enough for Clem to somehow, some way, break through these positions? He's looking for angles. He's looking for opportunities. So far, not really finding anything just yet. There's another fight over here, but siege tanks are covering this one. And I love the planetary over here. This entire section of the map is one of the very few vulnerabilities here for Reynor. And he's plugged it with a couple siege tanks and now also a planetary fortress. There's another planetary over here in the choke point, meaning that it's a very committed attack only that would ever break that position. This hatchery is not going to live. And so far, this game is going exactly according to plan. Well, at least the late game right here for Reynor is going exactly according to plan. Beautiful choke point here. No way. Go back home, little Zerg. It's not going to happen. So, the reason why 50% of the resources is what the goal is for a Terran in the late game is because of this. 3,000 minerals and 400 gas lost so far right here for the Terran. A very, very significant advantage. And usually that gets worse over time. So, If Reynor can mine 50% of the map, and he can continue this cost efficiency, there's about a 0% chance that Zerg can win. Factories coming up. Building armor coming up. High-sec auto-tracking. This is like a big puzzle, though. It's very easy for suddenly a lot of Zerglings to run into your base, right? Like, this is almost like a Terran campaign mission. If you hit a fungal, if you suddenly don't pay attention and you have a bunch of units going out, this is like a StarCraft 2 campaign mission on steroids, you know? Like, this is an extremely hard mission for Reynor to win. But technically speaking, right? If the stars are perfectly aligned, this is unlosable. It's just that you gotta play the perfect game. The only bottleneck is the player. And I feel like at this level, it's less of an issue. If it's me playing, I am a very severe bottleneck. But it's very difficult, I think, from this spot, for Zerg to really find an opportunity. Clem, though, has already found magic in the previous game, too. On Site Delta, he found some big fungal growths, and despite being behind, he clawed his way back into the game. 4 additional command centers coming up. Reynor hoping he can save some command centers for the rest of this series. At least assuming he wins this game, he hopes that he can make some more use of them, because there's a lot more orbitals and a lot more command centers ready to go. Okay, there is such a thing as making too many command centers, though. The cost efficiency for command centers is there, but if there's no minerals for them to mine, it is a bit of a problem. So this is Reynor right now securing 50%. How many orbitals do we have? 5 right now, 6 more command centers, 2 of which are planetaries. The Iron Bank has been built. You can now take loans from Reynor. Yoink. I think it might not be a bad idea to maybe get some Brood Lords going or something along those lines. But it is quite tricky here for the Zerg player to make the right decision. Blue Flame Hellbats moving on over to the front as well. Clem continuously, or Reynor rather. I look at the orbitals here and the command centers and the upgrades and I'm like, oh, this gotta, no. Reynor continuously improving his army. It looks like he is gonna be taking a bit of a hit here. That is the kill, of course, on a command center, but at the same time, that was by no means free. A lot more expensive right there for Clem to clean up that base than it was for Reynor to secure this base. So he's pretty happy with this setup. Clem has been mining a lot more, though, and if you look at the current resources in the bank, he can make whatever army he wants to make. But what do you make? What is the, like, what do you make? He may have 20,000 resources in the bank, 21,000, but what do you make? There's really not much you can make here that doesn't get countered by the current Terran army as it is. So his plan is to deny this base. He knows he's not going to be able to mine this base, but if he can mine his 50% of the map, and he can take what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If he can deny the 6th base right here from the Terran over and over and over again, he will effectively mine about maybe like 55% or so of the available total resources, assuming this one never gets mined. Maybe even more than that. I'm not gonna run the numbers, okay? I was trying to do mental math, but I stopped myself because I'm only ever gonna make myself sound foolish. No, but like, that's the general plan here. He can't really make an army that is gonna beat that of the Terran, so he needs to make something that is gonna give him additional income compared to the Terran. Try to beat that cost inefficiency by just having way more stuff. And currently that bank is looking mighty fine. It's still growing. Oh, but it's not gonna last forever. That was an expensive set of losses right there for the Terran. Very expensive set of losses as well though for the Zerg. And Clem is ready to remax it. Clem has done a good job so far, denying this base repeatedly, but I'm a little afraid that we are gonna see this expansion secured eventually. I wouldn't even mind seeing another command center fly here and just double planetarying it. I know it's a bit odd to do 2 planetaries in one location, but this is such a pivotal spot. We're gonna wall it with engineering base. Engi base because they're like the cheapest HP to mineral ratio. They're also a 3x3 size structure. So that's why we're building a wall off here. I love it. He's gonna try and see if he can find an angle over here, but Reynor is mighty turtled up. Yep. And this is starting to look a little bit ridiculous now. Brilliantly done, though, by Reynor. You know life is good as a Terran when you're sniping banelings. You know life is cruising at that point. Like, this was the first layer of defense. There's about 17 more. No way, Clem. Get off of my base. Okay. The only thing that's really missing right now for Reynor is continued tactical nukes and continued scans. Look at him. Okay, you like that? I was thinking the same freaking thing, man. I like that Reynor was thinking the same thing about the freaking scans. You like that, he says. You like it when I see you when I disable the fog of war? You should make a few more turrets. Oh, Clem is giving a little bit of free coaching. Reynor says okay and starts up some additional turrets. He's making more. Okay. Always nice to get some additional help while you're playing the game. Yeah, this is a difficult series if you like to complain about balance. If you like to identify as a balance whiner, how do you do it? Yeah, this is a tricky one. Do you now complain that Terran is overpowered or Zerg is over? Look at the scans. This is actually Reynor just having a good time now. You know what, guys? I'm gonna say the lamest thing ever. I don't think Terran is overpowered. I don't think Zerg is overpowered. I think we need a new map pool. Yeah, I think we're overdue for a new map pool. Because these maps are very well figured out, and while they are good, the longer that a map pool is around and the more figured out things become, the more turtley strategies we will see. And I like turtley strategies. But I do think, since the current map pool seems to be slightly Terran favored, that we're gonna see more Terran wins the longer we are on this map pool. Because it's by no means solved. Like, there are still ways to get better at playing this matchup, right? To play any of the matchups. So, we see both players, by the way, now getting rid of their workers. The idea of getting rid of your workers is that it opens up more supply for army. It's been a bit quiet, by the way, in case you are not really following the news all too much. Basically, StarCraft 2 does not yet have... It doesn't yet... What if I just chill? Do it. Yeah, no, he's gonna mine 50% of the map, see how it goes. I don't think it's gonna go well. Anyways, StarCraft 2 doesn't currently have a 2025 season planned yet. I'm chilling since minute 1. It's only fair you get some chilling time as well. Oh, yeah. Nah, this is not a draw. Reynor actually has attacking potential. Like, he has push potential here. Unlike that game between Clem and Bjorn. No, it was not Clem and Bjorn. It was Rogue and Bjorn that I casted on post youth recently. This map is much easier to attack on for Terran. So it doesn't take a lot of space for him to get across the creep here. This map is pretty... Ooh, we have a big attack here, actually. Clem trying to get up to the high ground. Okay. Infestors move commanded in, though, and that was a horrible fight for Clem. GG. Alrighty. Reynor gets a point on the board, and next up, we find ourselves on El Sayani. So, what I was trying to say, we don't yet have a confirmed season of 2025. So, after the World Championships wrapped up, we don't have a new competitive season announced just yet. Now, in the previous years, this has also been the case. There were some moments in the past where, for example, when Blizzard was still in charge, it was kind of assumed, right? And we had like a 3-year plan when Blizzard first put their hands off of the game and they decided to bring it over to ESL and all that. We don't really have an announced season yet, but I've got a feeling there's probably something cooking up. At the very least, ESL, they've not really been too communicative about it, but at least judging by their tweets, it seems like they've got something in the works. And I think whenever that new season gets announced, we also get a new map pool and we will also get a new balance patch. At least that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm, you know, as far as my YouTube casting goes and my YouTube channel and the way I make a living, it would be kind of nice if we get a new competitive season. But I'm pretty sure we will get at the very least something moving forward. That being said, until that point, until that announcement is ready to go, if there is such an announcement, I think we're probably going to be running the same patch. We're going to be running the new, or the same map pool too. So the question is mostly when that's going to happen. I would imagine we're probably going to see it within the next month or so, but honestly, I have no idea. I have no insider information. I am just guessing, and I guess if I did have insider information, I wouldn't be allowed to share it. Yeah. The only downside, right? So I see a lot of people asking, for example, for a new map pool. The only downside of a new map pool is that it could actually be one where it's significantly worse. Yeah, because the map pool right now may be slightly favored for Terran. But what if it's much worse the next one, right? Like, what if we kick out all 9 maps that we have in the current pool and we just replace them with new ones, and it's going to be really fun the first couple weeks, and then it turns out to be a bit of a disaster? Then again, Microsoft did... So in case you're unfamiliar, Microsoft obviously bought Activision Blizzard. They did recently announce that StarCraft 2's campaign and StarCraft 1 are coming to the Xbox Game Pass. So it is pretty clear that they are starting to get some work done, right? Like, they're starting to put in a little bit of practice there. So it is nice to... at least there's things happening. I've got faith that we will see something cooked up. I'd be very surprised if that's not the case. Obviously, the EWC, it would be crazy, right? It would be crazy in my mind, after 14 years of StarCraft competition, that, like, the final premier tournament is the one with the biggest prize pool ever. It also seems that for the EWC, so the Esports World Cup, some of the very best views that they had throughout the entire event, so they did like 20-something esports there, were actually for StarCraft 2. The StarCraft 2 VODs, for example, on their YouTube channel are performing very well, which is pretty cool to see. So, like, there is... I've actually noticed, like, an increase over the last month or so. Like, on my YouTube channel itself, and shout out to you guys, there have been like 500,000 additional views. A lot of folks are still interested in a game from 2014. Or 2015 for Legacy of the Void, 2010 for StarCraft 1 in general. Anyways, we've had a nice little Zergling push over here. Clem trying to be annoying, trying to catch the Terran player off guard. Okay. Couple SCVs going down, but not all too crazy. But yeah, it is interesting to me. It is quite interesting to me. It's just a little bit of an uncertain time. You know, at least for me, I have a gajillion replays still to cast. I am not running out of games anytime soon. There's still a lot of online cups running. But this is especially a tricky time, I think, if you're a professional gamer and you're like rank, like, say like you're rank 30 in the world. What do? You're not really going to be winning the premier tournaments, very likely. You're not going to be winning the smaller online cups, most likely, because all the top tier players right now are playing in those. How do you get it done? How do you pay the bills? Especially if you have no big tournaments on the horizon. So I'm hoping we're going to see a bit of a move on in that department soon, but I can imagine with the EWC being quite involved overall right now. It seems like they're trying to, at least for all of the other esports, they're trying to be like the central esports hub. And obviously now also with Microsoft involved, I can imagine the puzzle, right? For all those big companies to work together and for stuff to happen. That it's yeah, ESL obviously is also, it's probably quite a lot of parties involved and a lot of very large parties at that. Hard to really get anything done quickly. It would be insane, though, if, like, hypothetically, the EWC is, like, the last premier tournament for StarCraft 2, which is not going to be the case. I don't believe that. But it would be insane if the last tournament ever is the one with $1 million prize pool. Well, hey, in that case, Clem is going to be pretty happy about it, I'm sure. Grabbing a casual $450,000 in one tournament. How many Hellions, by the way, have we got here? So we have one only going down. This is 10 Hellions in total right here for Reynor. It's been quite a few Zerglings sent across the map from Clem. Mostly, though, this is both players now transitioning away from the early game. Third Command Center has landed down on the low ground once again. We've got ourselves the lair coming up here for Clem. I'm assuming we're going to see a Baneling Nest in just a moment. Oh, there it is already. And we should have the +1 melee queued up as soon as he's got enough gas for it, which requires 100. I'm sure we'll get that in just a sec when he's got it right now. Go! Go! Alright, he'll get it soon, I'm sure. Maybe he wants to go Baneling speed first. He can now afford... I did it. Perfect. Barracks coming up at the front. Really? So this is an 8 Rex. This is an 8 Rex off of 3 command centers. This is the build that Oliveira won against Cyril with twice. Not that long ago. It is a very scary attack from Terran, and it hits like a truck. So, generally speaking, you go for 8 barracks off of 4 command centers. This is the 3 additional Rex added on before a 4th command center, meaning that usually you skip Ghost and you just make a stupid amount of army. You can still go for a 4th command center on the back of this, but usually it's more or less an all-in. Let's see. Hydra Den coming up. Macro hatchery building. We have another hatchery down at the bottom of the map. In game number 1, we saw Clem over drone. If he does something again in this game too, he is not gonna have a good time. He's got a infestation pit coming up. He has not actually got a clue about what's happening. He has not scouted the Zerg for a long time. Or... as Zerg, he has not scouted the Terran in quite a long time. This is 12 Marines right now. 1-1 just about to finish up. We've got ourselves combat shields also just about to finish up. This siege tank has apparently spawned over here and is now making a big loop around the Terran base. Eventually we'll go down to the low ground, but anyways, this is going to be an awful lot of Terran. Very, very soon. I think you want to go pretty quick, Reynor. The main problem here is if you give the Zerg too much time here, right? If you give the Zerg too much time and they get into their mass unit production phase, which is where Clem has arrived right now, that economy, that 85 worker economy right now from Clem is just going to give him a massive advantage. So 1,000 or so resources a minute right now coming in favor of the Zerg. The Terran army is growing fast though. Yep. So let's see. These Evo chambers at the front are actually pretty terrible. I really hate the positioning on these Evo chambers. It's such an easy snipe. In the meantime, 2-2 has also been brought up. I think Reynor's going to attack when he maxes out, which is right now. Yep, let's dance. We can dance if we want to. I will kill your Evo chambers. Oh, this is so bad for Zerg. No way, bro. You've created your own choke point. He's attempting a bit of an attack on the other side of the map, but plenty of reinforcements. Force CC now finally goes down, but this attack is by no means dealt with. This is a 4th command center because Reynor is maxed, and he has money to continuously make units here, so he doesn't really need to worry about it. Instead, we're gonna try and do like a 360 surround right here. Off creep against a Terran. Okay, well, here we go. Is there enough? Maybe. That is an awful lot of Marines, though. With good splits, I do still think that Clem is gonna get overwhelmed here. Okay, we need to reactivate Stimpack. Reynor does reactivate Stimpack. Wonderful control right there by the Italian Zerg player. And this is where those Evo chambers are gonna come in clutch. Ugh. So close to it finishing, too. I like how he transfused it one time. That was really gonna make a difference. We're once again pre-spreading all of the units. Stimpak gets reactivated. Some nice splitties here coming out of Reynor. Yeah, brilliant game. Yep, so this is punishing Clem. So Clem in game number 1, 2, and 3 decided to play very greedy. This is great, what Clem is doing against a normal Terran opener with a fast 4th command center and, you know, the delayed additional barracks and just the ghost transition and all that. But it does not work at all against an 8 Rex all-in. So, lovely play right there by Reynor. And that means it all comes down to this. Final game in this best of 5 series. We find ourselves on Oceanborn. What was previously looking like a 3-0 sweep for Clem could now be a reverse sweep in favor of Reynor. So far, this series is delivering, though. Game number 1 was relatively sloppy. Looks like Reynor needed a little bit of a warm-up game playing Terran. But every game after that has actually been really competitive. Okay, we've got ourselves a reactor coming up. I'm hoping we're going to see triple CC from Reynor. It's quite common on this map, as he does snipe the drone over here. It's quite common on this map to go double barracks at the front. Usually the most popular setup, but another drone might be in some trouble. Yep, triple CC opener from Reynor. Okay. Queen now blocking the hatch. And ultimately, Clem does get the hatchery down. But you can see that Reynor's control is... it's starting to pick up. That was some really great Reaper micro there. He got a kill on the drone. He delayed that 3rd base for about 7.5 minutes. Give or take. 7 minutes or so. Yeah, he's got a great economy building on the back of this. I would like to see a Marine and then a reactor, or not a reactor, a tech lab over here. We can go ahead and make some good old benchies again. I think this Marine is not 100% necessary, but denying any OV scouts is always good. Yeah, he left a couple of them over here. Okay. We may go for a Liberator instead. Alrighty. In the meantime, what are we doing right now? Clem, not really mixing up his strategies all too much. It seems like Clem has decided that Zerg has one build order and one strategy. And that strategy is going quick mailing speed, double upgrades, and then straight to lurkers. That seems to be the general gist of it. There's once again the lair. I'm expecting the next structure of gas is probably going to be a bailing nest, and then we see double evo chamber. We'll probably see double evo chamber right here. He seems to always be using his evo chambers to wall off, maybe over here, but to wall off one of the entrances into the 3rd base. A little bit of a cheeky circling attempt over here. Reynor learning from the previous games, dealing with those a lot more smoothly now than he did before. We do need a bailing nest. Can we get a bailing nest? Ah, okay. I was gonna say, that one is a little bit late, but as long as he starts up bailing speed, as soon as the bailing nest finishes, we should be okay. Queen's trying to be a little bit annoying. Oh, lovely Reaper grenade there once more. Almost getting the kill on the Queen. You can tell here that Clem is the one who is controlled a bit, right? Like, he is the one that needs to grab the reins back in the game, because Reynor so far is toying with them a little bit. Yes, Brenda survived. Yes, there have not been any critical errors. All of this is very playable, but Reynor is 100% of the driver's seat here. There's the double E. Hey, look, I predicted the double EVA chamber positioning. 4th hatchery coming up at the top of the map. And we'll probably see a macro hatchery in a moment too from Clem. That seems to be his play. 4th hatchery up north, macro hatchery in the main. For now though, we're droning. Got a little bit of time to catch up on. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, 3rd command center flies on down to the low ground. And we've got ourselves barracks 4 and 5 right now, building inside of the natural expansion. Liberator just trying to be annoying. Good movement right there by Clem. Liberator probably should go home and get a little bit of a repair. Maybe it can go around the side. Maybe the Zerglings can finally get a wraparound though on these Hellions. 2 of them go down. But the age of the Hellion is mostly over anyways. Yeah, good bit of damage right here though on this lib and just in general with whatever else is going on. This liberator over here. Second one apparently in the main base and over at the third. Also causing some havoc. Clem, losing 9 workers so far in this game. Not the end of the world though, because the harassment here from the Terran was not free. But this has been quick triple CC, right? And with quick triple command center, you don't really need to deal damage to the Zerg that much. You can usually get away without dealing any real damage. Okay. Nice positioning on the Marines. Second factory going up at the front. Double upgrades going up as well. We should probably see an armory here momentarily. +1 infantry armor for some reason is a little bit delayed. But we should probably see an armory here in just a moment and we should be good to go. Okay. Both players though set up very nicely for a macro game. Momentum slightly in favor of Reynor, but certainly not terrible for him by any stretch. Or for Clem rather, by any stretch of the imagination. We have some nice creep spread over here, especially on the left side of the map. And the queens, yeah, they're still going around in one nice little ball. So you'll notice the top level Zergs, they usually have 3 control groups for queens. And the creep spread is therefore usually a lot better, and the base defense is also usually quite a bit better. Clem instead, yeah, keeping his queens in one big ball. It's the easier way to do things, of course. But not quite the optimal way to do things. There's the armory. And there's the 4th command center about 3/4 of the way done. When that one is landed on the low ground, I'm assuming it's gonna go over here. We will probably see him going into the good old ghosts. Barracks 6, 7, and 8. There they are. And this is, yeah, this is Reynor cruising right now. Dealing a bit of damage. Once more, we have a Liberator right here. Liberator actually kind of difficult to see on a minimap. These libs are putting in work though, so this is 18 kills on one Liberator. Ultimately, she dies. But that's worth it. Another infestation pit. So we actually don't have a fast hive here at all from Clem. Like, Clem is actually quite far behind at this point in time. Reynor is grabbing this game with both hands so far. I don't see any attack that can go well right now for the Zerg. The very best play, I think, for Clem at this point in time is... well, defend. Just try to defend at home. Maybe do a Zergling run by or something like that. But there's really not much he can do. He needs to get up to Hive. He needs to get up to Lurkers. Or he needs to get up to some Hive tech upgrades at the bare minimum. Because if he's not careful, Reynor's going to be able to run away with the victory. This fight over here is excellent as well for Reynor. Yeah, Reynor is suddenly playing 10 times as good, man. Ay, ay, ay. There's actually some really solid Terran gameplay. Not really finding any mistakes. I think he hit a supply block at 69 out of 69. I was going to point it out because I'm basically a 12-year-old. Or at least my humor is that of a 12-year-old. But other than that, other than the supply block at 69 out of 69, he's been playing this very smoothly. There's finally the Hive. So 10 minutes on the Hive. That is several minutes late for the modern meta. And this is one of those setups where Terran doesn't even really need ghosts. There's no way you can break this easily, Clem. I think you don't really have a choice. Okay, yeah, he's thinking the same thing. He's gonna try and do the counter-attack instead, and this may work out favorably. There's a bunch of siege tanks set up, but the majority of the Terran army is indeed on the other side of the map. It does mean that that hatchery is very likely to fall. Yeah, so far though, apparently Mr. Reynor decided to just pull all of his units back. And that is a small victory there for Clem. He managed to, at the very least, get that large army off of his back, but he hasn't really dealt with the army yet. This fight is likely to continue in that location of the map, although Clem is thinking the same thing. He decides to commit on the right side instead. He knows these Terran units are currently split up, but at this point in time, Reynor also has an upgrade lead, and in these engagements, the 2-2 is really nice. I would love to see 3-3 start up immediately here for the Zerg, who's actually playing Terran. But it'd be nice, because those upgrades are really going well. So there's no Lurker Den here for Clem. This is basically him saying, I'm going to play Hydraling Bane with Vipers for support. What we really should see is the Adrenal Glands upgrade. Preferably +3 melee, but apparently that's not the play here. There's 3-3 starting up for Reynor. Good. Ghost Academy also on the back of this. These fights are horrible for Clem, though. He's going to try and see if he's got enough stuff, but there's about 0% chance. That wasn't even the entire Terran army. I think Reynor has this one in the bag. I mean, not yet. We're not there yet. But it is pointing in that direction. You can tell here that Zerg is very difficult to kill. The dancing on creep is very scary. You know what? We do have Vipers now with energy. Blinding Clouds and Abductions on the Siege Tanks. The Siege Tanks are really anchoring this fight. Look at the amount of kills. 14, 15, and 16 kills, respectively. If we get those out of the equation... Oh, loses one of the Vipers. Okay, Blinding Cloud does go down. We do have an Abduction. I think maybe Clem can break this spot. Yeah. Yeah, he's just barely breaking it. He lost one of the Vipers, kept 2 of them alive. Okay, those Vipers, so critical. So critical there. Okay, so give it a moment to breathe, though. Clem is actually going to have a very nice army. He needs to start up another upgrade in the Evo chamber. There's the Lurker Den coming up, though. Apparently, that's where he's favoring his gas expenditure, but yeah, Burrow is coming up, too. I really think we need to make sure that we saturate the gases and get those Evo chamber upgrades cooking up quick. This means that Reynor right now is going to have to shift gears. So he's been the aggressor while building up economy. Now he's likely going to turn into the Terran punching bag, right? This is that point in the game. The one that we saw him play brilliantly on Ghost River, but this map is a lot more complex than that one. So let's see if we can set up a similar thing on this map too. This fight over here going reasonably well, though the Vipers, yeah, not really getting as much value. Reynor holds for now. Taking 50% on this map is much harder than it is on Ghost River. So it is certainly a viable play, but you need to take this map a lot more methodical, and you need to make sure that you take all of the bases one at a time, because these expansions are far away. Like, you can't really just grab those bases and mine them out. You have so many different attack paths that you have to defend that it's much harder to take all of those bases on this map. So if that's the goal, we're going to have to make sure we take it very slowly. Four Vipers right now. I think he's only lost one. Yeah, those Vipers have been incredibly good. Honestly, as soon as the Vipers got energy, suddenly Clem has looked, yeah, like a complete Zerg. Now we have Ghosts hitting the battlefield too, though. 5 of them currently out. 3 more on the production tab. Reynor is starting to mix those in specifically to deal with those Vipers. And we're once more entering the turtling phase. Planetary Fortress. It's a double planetary in this location. Very tricky spot for him to break. We have him pretty far forward. I always love planetaries on that high ground. I think that high ground location with a planetary is lovely. But here we go again. Has Clem found an opportunity? I'm not so sure about it. That is quite a few lurkers, though, but they're unupgraded lurkers. With good snipes, these are pretty easy to break. Don't even need the snipes, I don't think. Yeah. Yeah, the Vipers were... Or sorry, the lurkers were so late that they don't have seismic spines yet. Clem is going to run around the corner and see if he can do the same move over here, but not quite the case. I think Reynor is going to turn this command center over here into a planetary fortress. And this is kind of like the entire left side of the map now plugged off. So if you can control these sections of the map, he can focus most of his army on the right side, which means that the next expansion he's looking for is this one right up here. It does mean, though, that Clem, yeah, he's reading this correctly. He's getting full reign of the left side of the map. So I actually wouldn't mind seeing Clem trying to attempt taking this base already. Gonna be a difficult one to mine, but any resources taken in that base are gonna be quite nice. I don't think Reynor is really gonna give him this expansion up here. Gonna be a tricky one. Okay. Scanner reveals that there is indeed a base over there. Sensor tower, by the way, is within range of this location too. So those sensor towers are quite handy. We have 2 sensor towers right next to each other. 2 sensor towers and 2 planetaries. Another big fight over here, once more on the right side of the map though. These fights are incredibly cost inefficient. But Clem realizes that if he wants a chance at mining that base on the right side here, he needs to get this Terran player off of his back. Resources lost are now going to go heavily in favor here of the Terran player. Fusion core, personal cloaking for the ghosts, building armor. Do we have high-sec auto-tracking? We do. That is the ranged upgrade for missile turrets as well as the planetary fortress. Okay, so one of these bases, the one over here and the one over here, has to go to Terran eventually. Easy one to take is this one, but even the easy one is not that straightforward. As long as it's not mined too much, it's fine. Reynor will be happy taking 55% of the map, or 45% rather of the map. The cost efficiency should more than make up for that. And this is the type of style that we see Reynor lose against. He's extremely good in the mid game, very strong early game, very strong late game. But when Terran gets to this phase of the match where they are turtling pretty hard, and he is playing Zerg, this is usually the point in the game where he struggles quite a bit. And you can see Clem looking desperately for opportunities. These are crazy attacks into sieged up Terran positions, trying to get rid of static defense, trying to just deal damage wherever possible. He can quickly remax, but that's not going to really achieve that much. More ghosts are coming up. The main problem you run into at this point in the game as a Zerg player is that Terran is still continuously improving their army, but Clem's army has been as good as it's ever going to be for like 5 minutes now. And there's not really much he can do to really add into this position. Like, what is he gonna make? Sometimes we have like a mass brute lord transition, I guess, that can kind of work. A couple infestors for big fungal growths, that can kind of work, but it is risky. The problem with the other unit compositions that Zerg can make, such as, for example, Brute Lord Infestor or maybe Ultraling Bane or whatever, all of it gets killed by the army that Reynor currently already has. A little bit of an attempt over here. Yeah, he sees that Infestor. Well, given it enough time, though, if Clem can mine out both of those bases, life is going to be quite good for him. Because once those minerals are gone, obviously they're never coming back. And even though all of these fights are quite cost inefficient, if he can take a full base from the Terran player, that's massive. I actually think he should transfer drones up. Oh. I think he should transfer our base up north. Oh, jeez. Okay. He should take some drones over here. Yeah, he does that right now. I think taking those outer bases and fully saturating them ASAP, including the gases, super important. Because those are the bases that Reynor will have his eyes set on right now. There's really no other late game unit for Zerg that would be an option though. Yeah, we've seen, like I said, Rogue go mass Overseer to cover the screen to make it impossible for the Ghost to actually snipe. I don't know how reliable of a play that is, but in theory it could work. Swarm hosts are extremely supply heavy and just not a resource efficient unit at this point in the game. It would be lovely if you could suddenly make 20 swarm hosts while still having this army right here as Zerg 2, but that's just not a viable choice. I really do wonder though if the style that Rogue is playing with Mass Overseer is actually like a viable play. I would not be surprised to see it. This is an extremely comfortable position right now though for Reynor. Look at all those bases, look at all those missile turrets, those sensor towers, those siege tanks, those planetaries. It is tricky right now for the Zerg to really find anything. And he's continuing the slow push up towards his high ground too. If the maximum supply cap for Zerg would be 250, we would definitely see a different style. But since all the races share 200 supply, this is going to be about as good as it gets. If there would be a mass transition right now to Swarm Hosts, Reynor would instantly unsiege the tanks and go. Ghost deals so much damage, man. Oh, look at the Ghost! That was just the Ghost auto attacks! Everything disappeared in under a second. Take that, High Templar! Oh, High Templar can attack too, guys. Sentries can attack as well. They don't deal damage, though. I guess the Queens deal quite a bit of damage, and they're technically spellcasters. Infestors and Vipers can't attack at all. Yeah. I feel like the easiest nerf you could make to Ghosts, if we do need to see an adjustment. He's running the Ghost skin, by the way. Look at that. That is the female Ghost skin. There's a Nova, too. I know there's a 1 in 100 chance to get a Nova when you're running this particular skin. That's super cool. There's a Nova running around. Anyways, we have an attempted attack over here. I feel like one of the easiest nerfs you could do is reduce the auto attack speed of the Ghost. Because the Ghost, in my mind, is really quite tanky, and its basic attack damage is also really high. It's not even remotely in line with the other spellcasters in the game. If you want to stay true to the sniping fantasy, right, of the unit, just reduce its auto attack by, like, I don't know, make it attack like twice as slow. Because it attacks very quickly too, and it deals a lot of damage with every regular round. That would be the most basic nerf. I think it probably needs more adjustments than that, but again, a new map pool would go a really long way. Hey, but this is cool though, we rarely ever see the skin being used. So there's a small percentage of a chance that when you make Ghosts with this skin on, that you actually get a Nova. Pretty neat. Reynor has completed his turtling, by the way. This is him now grabbing 50% of the map. The turtling has been completed. It's still a little vulnerable on the left side of the map, but additional command centers are going to try and take care of that. The new game plan here for Reynor is to sit back and, like he called it, chill. We're gonna do a little bit of chilling. There's zero reason for him to be attacking right now. Just try to mine out the map. Blinding clouds come down over here. Alright, fair enough. He does kill the command center, but these traits are incredibly expensive. We have an Infestor, gets EMP'd before it gets anything done. Look at this. Yeah. This is pretty quick. Turns out Reynor is both the hare as well as the tortoise, man. Like, he's extremely fast, but he's also playing very slow. Does that make any sense? He's winning the race regardless. He's both of the participants. He's turtling nicely. And it's hard for the Terran really to be broken here. Now, Clem is finding little opportunities though. You know what we should maybe do is overlap a couple more sensor towers, because we don't quite have enough yet. There's only about 5 in this section of the map. Why do we have 7? There's a 6th one. Yeah, we have about 6 of them in the bottom left-hand corner, so this is by no means an optimal way to turtle. I also wonder if the planetary armor upgrade needs to be there, man. The building armor upgrade for StarCraft 2, this one, it's only Terran that have this upgrade. Like, these 2 upgrades over here on the left. As far as I can think, there's no Terran, or there's no Zerg or Protoss equivalent. Those 2 upgrades are just nice little bonuses for Terran. I don't know if Terran really needs those. So this is Planetary Fortress and Missile Turret ranged. This is building armor. And the building armor, I guess, is, yeah, just +2 armor flat for all the structures. It's really nice. It makes the planetaries more powerful too. These are the type of upgrades, though, that do promote more passive play. And again, I don't mind passive play. I'm just hard-pressed to find anything here that Clem can really do. Phenomenal play, though, here by Reynor. At this point, Clem's playstyle, his game plan, is to hope to get a lucky fungal growth. But the Ghost counters that, too. I still feel like Zergs are not even playing against the ultimate form of Terran yet. This wouldn't be a late-game TVZ cast of me not bringing up the Raven, right? I still feel like there's a little bit more juice that can be squeezed out of the Terran army. Building armor, anti-armor rather. Mobile detection in the form of ravens would be an absolute no-brainer in my sense too. But anyways, it is indeed going to be a victory right here for Reynor after falling 2-0 behind against Clem. Insane.